Welcome to the Retire with Peace podcast, the podcast where we help you create a fulfilling and stress-free retirement. Each week, we bring you expert advice, practical tips, and inspiring stories to help you plan and live your best retirement life. Whether you're nearing retirement or already enjoying your golden years, this podcast is here to support you every step of the way. Let's embark on this journey together and discover how to retire with peace.
Welcome back to the Retire with Peace podcast. As always, I'm your host, Dave Zegel. Let's talk a little bit about planning software. Please do not bow down to planning software. And nowadays, you can say the same thing about artificial intelligence. We use a lot of tools there where we ask it a question, we get an answer, and we can often make the mistake of just blindly accepting the answer as if it's truth, when in fact it might not be. And in both cases, whether we're talking AI, planning software, most of what you get out of it is really good. But you still have to know what you're talking about and be able to verify things and double check that everything's happening properly. It's just really important when we're talking about financial planning, retirement planning, any type of finance planning at all, that we don't simply take what the software says and run with it. I've seen a lot of people do this. Heck, I've seen planners do this. I actually watched someone once speaking to a group who was a financial planner, and this person actually said, I just put the information in the software and we do whatever it says to do when the output comes out. And I thought, that is so terrible. How can you do that? But people do. I don't know why they do. For me, it borders on malpractice, but people do this. So we cannot bow down to software because we have to understand the output. And we also have to understand that different softwares do different things and they have different strengths and weaknesses. It's not as if there is one absolute almighty way of planning and somehow all these softwares have incorporated that into their planning software. That's not how it is. There are humans who still have to decide how this is all going to be engineered, and then the programmers do that. And again, it's not that every software program is the same. They're not. So some focus, let's say, more on retirement planning. Some might focus more on education planning. Some can be more broad overall planning and not really specialized in anything. For example, we use a software that is specific to retirement planning. The downside is they don't do a whole lot of pre-retirement planning. They're working on it. They're getting there. They're starting. Good software, but you have to know that it's not something that we're going to use to help a 35-year-old plan because it's not designed for that. There are humans and programmers that have to actually put these things in place for that to work. So that one is focused more on retirement planning. Contrast that with another piece of software that we use, which is much more robust, customizable, which is both good and bad. It can do a lot, but you have to know what you're doing. Otherwise, it's a garbage in, garbage out. So you have to know what you're doing, but it can do a lot, especially for those who are pre-retirement. They're not retired yet. It can do a decent number of things for post-retirement, but not on the level of our other software that we use specifically for retirement planning. In all those cases, none of those are bad pieces of software. You just have to understand what they are good at and what you're going to get out of it and how you can use it. And in no case ever do we just load the information and say, there it is. That looks nice. That's the answer. Let's go with it. No, you have to be able to understand, is it reasonable? Are there different details that are missing? There's just so much that can be taken way out of context or just looked at incorrectly if we don't understand what it's producing. Is this meeting the goal that we need? Online calculators can be fine, often too simplistic. So if we think about some calculators out there to determine retirement readiness, for example, you can put in account balances, when you want to retire, what you need for income and expenses. You can put all those pieces of information in and it might give you a score. It's probably a a Monte Carlo score, which we could talk about a different day, but it's going to give you some score to tell you if you're ready for retirement or not. And that can be okay. It's not necessarily bad. It's just missing some details a lot of times. So it doesn't really talk about maybe specifics on timing of Social Security. What are options for working part-time? What are tax impacts? A lot of times it doesn't even touch the tax impacts, which is huge. That really determines how much you can get out of your total investments that you have for retirement. So there's a lot of pieces that can be missed or just glossed over with software if you don't really know what you're doing. So that's the message today is when you're using software, they're good things. Yeah, I wouldn't want to do this stuff by hand. That's ridiculous. But we have to understand what the software is doing, what it's trying to give us. We have to understand it enough to know if what the output is makes sense. And then we have to also, most importantly, understand that whatever it's telling us from a planning perspective will almost certainly change. It's been very rare where we have been able to set a plan and that's what actually happens with life. Can happen, yes, but very rare. Just because life is not that linear, not that perfect, things happen. People get inheritances. People get sick, people die. Crazy stuff happens, and that you can't build those things into plans. You can do some scenario analysis for sure, but you don't need to run 20 scenarios on every what if possible. That's not the point. The point is that the software is there to provide a guide and to show you also where you might need to make adjustments along the way. So please don't just pump something into a software and go, voila, that's the answer. That's not how that works. All these softwares are very different in what they're doing. There's a lot of similarities, but there can be a lot of differences, which means you might get some different answers, which then you have to ask, okay, well, what's the point if all these softwares are giving me different answers? We just have to understand that we shouldn't just bow down to the software and say, yes, this is the answer. This is what my life is always going to be. And now I can just go forth. Not how it works. You have to understand what the answer is that it's giving you and how you're going to make adjustments along the way as life changes.